everyone, and welcome back. For those who are watching me for the very first time, my name is Adiola and I live here in Merida, Yucatan, Mexico, where I share my experiences as a single woman living here in Merida, Mexico. So, today's video will be a quick one, hopefully, and it is to answer a question that I've been thinking about for a while, and that is that do I regret purchasing this property? Do I regret buying my house? So first of all, I actually didn't buy a house. I bought a property. The property that I bought was pretty much a property that needed to be torn down and something else needed to be rebuilt. So I'm going to attach the photo, the only photo that I have, because I lost most of my footages. Maybe eventually I will recover it somehow, but I lost most of my footages, so I was able to take a screenshot of what my house looked like on Google Maps. Right now, Google Maps has updated, so it has a different image of what my house looks like, which still isn't what it currently looks like today. So I bought that property. I closed on it in December, even though I found it in August. So as a foreigner, it takes a few months to close, about 3 to 5 months to close on a property, because you have to get a fideicomiso, and that means you're dealing with the federal government. And when you're dealing with the government, especially here in Mexico, it takes a very long time. So anywhere between 3 to 5 months, even sometimes longer, depending on the property. Some properties might be a little bit complicated. Maybe there might be a document that's missing or that's not up to date. So the seller themselves might have to go and update that document, and which can delay the closing process. But normally as a foreigner, it should take you 3 to 5 months. If you're going to be buying under a fideicomiso or even under a corporation. But if you're a Mexican citizen, it can take you a week or two to do the closing, because it's just a matter of them bringing their document. If everything is up to date, your documents also are up to date, and you have the money, the requirements. You're not buying through a bank, you're not buying through Infonavit or something like that. You're paying them cash. 1 to 2 weeks, everything is done. But as a foreigner, expat, immigrant, whatever you want to call yourself, it'll take you a few months to close. I've heard of cases whereby it took almost a year to close, because I think something about the document or something, but it shouldn't take that long. So mine took about 3.5 months. We started the closing process mid-August, and actually we were ready to close end of November. But my notaria, she didn't tell me to bring money, because sometimes she would tell me to come in and sign this document and sign that document, and I just go. So when she told me to come and sign the document, I didn't know that I was actually closing, right? She never told me to bring money, right? So I showed up, everybody showed up, the sellers showed up, the guy from the bank showed up, everybody showed up. And they were like, yeah, so do you have the money? I was like, what money? Nobody told me to bring money. So yeah, because I guess even though I told her this was my first property ever in Mexico, so she should have told me everything that was involved, in the closing process. But maybe it was also like a miscommunication. I thought maybe I understood her Spanish, but I didn't. But anyway, so I was like, okay, let's come back next week because I don't have the money. But really, we should have closed end of November, but we closed December 3rd, I believe, the first few days in December. So let's say it took about 3.5 months, right, to do my closing. And sometimes if you want it to be quicker, you have to be on top of the notario, the notary office that will be closing it. You have to be on top of them, because sometimes they just get distracted with other clients, other documents, just they get distracted, with their own personal stuff. So they might tell you, hey, we're gonna file this document tomorrow, and next week we'll get back to you. You have to make sure that tomorrow you message them to follow up, like, hey, have you filed my document? Do not wait until the next week to follow up, because then they might be like, oh shoot, like I was supposed to file this document, I didn't, and then they will now file it on that same day. But they're not gonna tell you that, hey, they messed up. They're gonna make something up like, hey, I'm waiting on this person, I'm waiting on that person. So you always have to be on top of them. So maybe if you're even lucky, it might take you 2 months, to for you to close, right? But expect maximum 6 months to close, maximum. So anyway, my closing process, nothing complicated. It was just a matter of waiting. So I felt like my notaria was a little bit slow. So that's why my tip for you would be that be on top of them. If they tell you this thing will take a week, you want to follow up with them 3 days after. Don't even wait till a week, right? And this is one thing I'm finding with anybody in general. It's not just the notario. Anybody you're working with, a carpenter, they tell you, hey, it'll take 2 weeks. You want to follow up with them after a week. You're working with somebody, they tell you, hey, it'll take a few days. You want to follow up with them within a day or two. You don't want to wait until that deadline to follow up with them, because they get distracted very easily. And also with social media and smartphones, people get distracted very easily, myself included, right? So my closing process, it went smoothly. A little bit slow, but it went smoothly. Going back to the main question of this video, which is that do I regret purchasing this property? My answer will be a no. And that is because owning a property, I believe, in my opinion, is an investment. And the reason why I was looking for a property then, back in 2022, was that I thought, hey, I've been living here for a year and a half now, and I'm not really sure what country I'm going to go to next. Even if I do go to a country next, I want to have a route. I want to plant myself somewhere so that if I go somewhere, at least I'll have a home to come back to. And also, by that point, I was starting to lose interest in the nomadic lifestyle because I rented an apartment and I stayed there for a whole year. I haven't done that in like many years. And I just got comfortable with that lifestyle. I love that lifestyle, the slow pace of things. And I thought, hey, you know what? This feels good. But hey, you know what? At the same time, I've been saving money. Let's put this money into a good use. So that was the reason why I purchased my property, and the reason why I purchased a property within my budget. And so regrets, even though I've been having complications with this property, and the main complication that I'm having is, getting scammed and going through that lawsuit. And it's been a year and a half and I still don't even have a judgment. Well, actually, I did have a judgment a few months ago. I haven't done a video on that because I'm still going through it. But I think that will be the next series that I will start on, the legal system, at least my experience going through the legal system. But I've published a video so far about my experience with getting scammed and going through the Mexican legal system. So you can check out that video. I will also link it in the description as well. So going back to what I was saying, even though I did have some complications, when it comes to renovating the house and getting swindled, I still do not regret purchasing a property, because I released a video about how much I spent to acquire this property. Right now in 2025, you almost can't get that amount anywhere in Central Merida. I'll say anywhere in Merida, actually. Well, maybe in the south of Merida, you might be able to get something less than 1 million pesos. And of course, you will need to rebuild and such, right? But right now, 2025, it's a little bit, challenging to find a property at, less than 1 million pesos inside the city limits, right? So to me, it was a really good investment choice, and I'm very happy with it. And as a matter of fact, I'm very happy with my house. The other day, I was thinking of, wow, how much have I spent so far? Because, when you're renting as a tenant, you have to budget your rent, right? But I no longer pay rent, so it's like that expense is gone. Even though I'm still building this house, I moved in with just the interior done. The exterior wasn't done. So I'm still building the exterior. So the money I would have spent on rent, that's what I'm spending. And even more than that, finishing off the exterior of the house. And like I've shared in previous videos, I got some workers who did terrible jobs, so having to find other workers to come and correct the jobs that they did. Again, that's also an investment. But you know what? I'm actually enjoying this journey because I feel like life is a journey and you learn as you go, and I am learning a lot. And while I'm learning, I'm also gathering a list of trustworthy, reliable, and good workers, right? So at least I know that this guy is good. Okay, I need to do something now, going back to that same guy. But that's not always guaranteed though in Mexico, because sometimes you can have really good people and then they mess up and you have to fire them and hire someone else. And that is what happened to me recently with some workers that I was working with on the exterior of the house. These guys, they did a very well. Let's say this guy, because it was him, and then he would bring his own people. This guy did a really good job. Like 6 or 7 weeks we worked together, and then the rainy season started. So then I took a break because it was raining every single day. Every single day it would rain, and then it would rain in the afternoon. So these guys usually have to come in from the villages. So I thought, okay, let me wait until the rain dies out a little bit so that they can come and work, because it doesn't make sense for them to come and only work for half a day, right? If we were working on the interior, if we were working inside, then of course they would have continued working. But because we were working on the outside, right? If anything goes wrong, they had to do something on the outside, put up concrete paint, and 2 hours later, 3 hours later, it starts raining. And the rain during the rainy season is a heavy downpour. It's very strong, muy fuerte. And so it could wash everything off, and meaning that I would have to pay them to redo it. So it doesn't make any sense. So when the rain died down a little bit, I contacted this guy and he was giving me some excuses. Even though I sort of knew this guy might not want to work with me again, because what happened was this guy was trying to double charge me for a particular job that he had done for me the week before, and I caught that. And I said something about it, like, what the hell, man? So then I think he got upset that I got upset. Like, what the heck? So it was fact that he was good, and also the quality of his work. But anyway, and then I just went, the day after I knew this guy wasn't going to show up, I just went back on the street. The same way that I found this guy, I found someone else. I actually found 2 or 3 other people, but one guy was going to charge me like a ridiculous amount, and I was like, no. And then I got someone else by just going to the street and just walking around and talking to people. And luckily for me, I live in a neighborhood whereby so many houses are under renovation, under reconstruction, because I live in Centro. I live in Centro, so you have many houses that are going through renovation, and especially my part of Centro. So 3 years ago when I bought this property, it felt almost far out. It felt almost undesirable. But because, prices are still good, they're still affordable in my area. So people are coming down to my area, purchasing and then renovating those properties for Airbnb or even for sale, right? So by just walking 5 minutes, maximum 10 minutes, like 1 kilometer maximum around my neighborhood, I can find at least 4 construction sites. And I will just go to the construction site and just tell them, like, hey, are you guys looking for extra work? Because these guys, most times, they come from the villages. They come from out of town, and sometimes they would actually sleep on site because it takes them 2 hours also to go back and forth. So that's like 4 hours. So they will just stay on site and sleep on site from Monday to Fridays, and they usually work from I think 8 to 5. So after 5 p.m. they can do whatever they want. So after that they can just come and do my job, or they can actually stay. Let's say if they work Monday to Fridays, they can decide to stay Monday to Saturday, come do my job on Saturday, or come do the extra work on the Saturday and go back to their village for Sunday and then come back on Monday. So I just went back on the streets and I just went and I found someone else to the left. So going back to me regretting purchasing this property, my answer is absolutely not. No, I don't, because it's very common, like in countries like Canada and the US, for example, for people to regret purchasing their homes, because after they bought their homes, something breaks down and something breaks down. In my case, fortunately, there really is nothing that could break down because I built everything from the ground up. And yeah, so there's nothing that could absolutely break down. Although a few things had some issues, and I just called, paid, which I wasn't impressed, or I wasn't happy about. Pay. And the good thing about living here in Mexico is that labor is affordable, right? Affordable for me. And the only thing would be materials. Buying materials, they can be, a little bit expensive. But yeah, just coming, getting people to come in and correct jobs that were not done properly. I still have a few things in the house that I need to correct. For example, my main door, that is a big issue that I absolutely need to correct. So a few things that I need to correct, but it's still a work in progress. So I mean, I'm very fortunate, very grateful, very happy to be able to get to a point whereby I was able to save up money to buy something within my budget. Within my budget and just at the right time. So if you're thinking about purchasing a property, let's say Mexico, anywhere in Mexico, well, I would say let me focus on Merida because I live here, so I know the terrain. If you can afford it, you have the finances, everything all set, I would definitely recommend it. Right, for me now, I know that at least I don't have to pay rent anymore. I don't have to worry about landlords just increasing rent. Even though my rent was super cheap, I was paying 5,000 pesos, which was $250 USD. That was one of the reasons why I decided to stay in Merida as opposed to going back to Medellin, Colombia, because I was like, whoa, rent is so cheap here. I was like, whoa, rent is so cheap here. Let's stay for a year. So yeah, I paid 5,000 pesos for 2 years. And then the landlord, it was post-COVID. Everything was almost back to normal. The landlord they were like, okay, we're going to raise it. So they raised it to 5,500 pesos. So again, I paid that for 2 years. And then in my final year, 2025, they raised it to 6,000 pesos. And again, I was paying that, still very cheap. I was living significantly below my means. Even though there was one point my income went up, I kept my living expenses the same. I stayed in the same apartment. I ate the same food I was eating. I kept my car. Pretty much I kept my lifestyle the same because I knew that, okay, there were a few things that I needed to do, which was to purchase a property and then to renovate that property and so on and so forth. So right now my income has gone down thanks to AI. But although I'm not stressing at all, because why? Because at least I know that, okay, I have this property, I don't have to worry about rent, right? All I have to worry about is food, and thankfully I don't eat as much. So financial management, it is very important in life, very important, knowing how to manage your finances, because life comes in ups and downs, right? It's always good to know that even though everything is good right now, there will come a time whereby it won't be just as good, right? So always making sure that you're saving for those days. So yeah, it's been a few months since I've been living here. I'll probably come back after the 6-month mark, which will be in end of August. Yeah, because I moved in beginning of March. Yeah. So end of August, beginning of September, I'll probably do like a 6-month mark, 6 months living in my own property. Like, I won't really call it being a home owner in Mexico because I acquired this property in December of 2022. So almost 3 years ago. And also I'm going to start a series on the legal proceedings, pretty much everything that I was going through last year. So yeah, so to cut the long story short, no, I do not regret purchasing this property. Now, do I regret having to renovate this property and not buying a house that was already built? That's another video for another day. But for now, yes, no, I definitely do not regret purchasing in Mexico, and I'm very thankful because everything went smoothly. The documents were clean, the notaria, because there is a big fraud in the real estate industry in Mexico. I'm sure in so many other countries as well, but we're focusing on Mexico. real estate fraud that happens when buying and renting, right? And it's always good to work with a good notary, and you want to make sure that your notario or your notaria is somebody that you choose by yourself. Do not use the notario that was recommended to you by the seller, because something shady might happen, right? You want to make sure that you choose your own notary and that they represent you. And somebody posted in a Facebook group that they hired a lawyer to do the closing, even though lawyers don't do closings in Mexico. It's a notary, but I think that person had her own reason. So she was like, the lawyer would check the notario's job to make sure that everything is done and that the lawyer is representing them. But I was like, your notario is also representing you, so I don't know what's going on. So yeah, so making sure that the notary that you choose is representing you, and you also want to make sure that you are communicating with the realtor and not the seller. I mean, you're communicating with the realtor, and that the seller doesn't communicate with the notario. Because in my case, yeah, so my notaria, she asked me for the contact of the realtor, because she's not actually a realtor. She asked me for the contact details of the realtor, and then I think she asked for the contact details of the seller, or the sellers, because there were two of them. And then so she was communicating with them, and so when she needed something from me, my document and such, she will communicate with me. So everything went well, thank God. But I've heard of cases whereby the sellers might want to do something shady, right? So that's why it's always good to make sure that you handle the communication, or if your Spanish isn't good enough and the notario doesn't speak English, which was my case, so then you can hire a lawyer to do all those back and forth communication, or you can just hire somebody, just a regular person, and then that person could be like the middle person, right? So they will make sure that they get all the documents from the seller, even though it's their realtor that will communicate with the seller, get all their documents, and then they will send it to you, and then you will send it to your notario, or they will send it directly to the notario. But if you want to make sure that they don't have any communication with the seller at all, then you can ask them to send everything to you, and then you will send it to the notario. And then on closing date, of course, they will go to the notario's office in person to physically sign, right? And they also take fingerprints of Mexicans, not you, because the government doesn't have even though for your permanent residency and your temporary residency, they take fingerprints, but not for INE, because as a foreigner, you're not going to have INE, which is like your voting card, right? So I think it's a card that gives you the legal right to vote. Anyway, that's just, by the way, about the closing process here in Mexico. How does it work? So yeah, so if you're thinking about purchasing a property in Merida, you can go for it. If you have any questions, you can leave it in the comment section below, or you can also send me a DM on Instagram. If there's something that you would like me to talk about when it comes to purchasing a property, the closing process, the fideicomiso, can you own a property as a foreigner? What are some ways that you can skip the fideicomiso process? Anything that you would like me to talk about real estate in Merida, including renting, because obviously I was renting in Merida for over 4 years, right? So I also have an experience on that, in that aspect as well. So if there's anything you would like me to talk about, please do leave it in the comment section below, and I can, and I will look into it. So if you're thinking about purchasing here in Merida, and you've been having some doubts, some setbacks, or maybe you tried, it didn't work out, let me know what those challenges were for you, and maybe we can think of ways to overcome them in the future. And yeah, and then any other tips that maybe you want to share as a current homeowner here in Merida, Yucatan, you can also share it with us as well in the comment section below. And yeah, thank you for watching, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do click on that subscribe button to be subscribed. You can also click on the like button while you think about subscribing to the channel or not. And if there's anything in this video that I said that resonated with you, or that you feel that somebody that you know might find value in, please do click on the share button to share with them. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Ciao.